Hey, what's up everybody? It's Kellen here again from Start Your Systems, and welcome back to MX Simulator, where today we're doing another official track gameplay for the 2019 Supercross Series, round number 2 at Glendale. We are back in Phoenix this weekend. Speaking of being back in Phoenix, that's where I'm going to be this weekend. Hopefully I'll see some of you all there. Actually, my wife lived in Phoenix for about 3 or 4 months back in 2017, so I was living out there with her for a little bit, and know Phoenix pretty well. Been to this Glendale Supercross the last 3 years, so we're going to make it 4 this year. Usually a good time to meet up with some buddies I have out there and have a good time. So if you're out in Phoenix this weekend, let me know and maybe we can meet up. That'd be kind of cool to meet some people out there this weekend. I should be at the stadium around 3-ish, 3:30-ish, and we'll be there all evening long. So this track, built by the Race Factory Gaming track crew this week, was very interesting to see raced in MX Simulator. Lots of big, fast lines, as you see right here. A couple quads in that rhythm section. The first rhythm section seemed to bite people all night long. Obviously, I think the lines I'm going to be doing probably won't be too realistic to what you'll see on the race on Saturday. I think that the track will definitely be not only built different in some sections, because in sim you can kind of jump things a little bit too easy, and in real life they'll probably build it a little bit more normal. But I think also the guys in real life will probably be kind of stuck doing a lot of just triples in rhythm sections and not as many quads as you'll see me hit this evening. But regardless, it's still a good rendition of the track this year, and Race Factory Gaming guys always doing a good job replicating these tracks. So then, last week, I was proven dead wrong, and look, I can't be any happier that I was proven dead wrong. Again, if you're new to these videos, basically what I'm about to do is break down into some real-life Supercross discussions, so we can get a more general synopsis going into this weekend. But if you remember, I predicted that if Jason Anderson, Marvin Musquin, Ken Roczen, and Eli Tomac stayed healthy to the midpoint of the season, that nobody else would win a race all season long. And once again, like I said, I'm dead wrong, and I'm very happy I'm dead wrong. I love a series with parity and the unknown, if you will, and Anaheim 1 is always kind of the great unknown, and it really shook things up that we had rain, but I knew that was coming, so I guess I could have predicted Justin Barcia winning a race at Anaheim. But for some reason, I just didn't feel like he was going to get it done. I felt like it was going to be somebody else, one of the big four, stepping up. And I guess if we learned anything from the opener, is that those off-season injuries that were nagging Anderson and Marvin really are nagging. Like, they're just continuing to go on and on. Anderson hit the ground a pretty good bit, I guess, at the test track in early December. Reports from the Pulp MX show this week was somebody said that him and his mechanic Scuba Steve checking into the hospital in early December for an apparent arm or wrist injury. So whether or not that's still bothering him, I don't know, but a 14th place out of Anderson at the opener is not at all what he was looking for, I'd have to imagine. And then Marvin, I guess you could give a little bit of a credit to the fact that the track was very technical, and usually he's good at that stuff, but there was 2 whoop sections that kind of were reaching up and biting some people. And Marvin, as we know, is not the best at whoops, so I can kind of understand him not being like on point at the opener, but you can definitely tell he was a little bit too far off the mark from what he probably wanted to be. Had a meniscus injury in the offseason that seems like it kept him off the bike for a long time, and while 8th isn't bad, it's definitely not where I think he wanted to start the season. As for up front though, Barcia with the win. Tomac gets 3rd behind Roczen, so I feel like Roczen and Tomac probably finished about exactly where they wanted to at the opener. I don't think you can get much happier than leaving with on the podium at a race that's kind of kicked their butts in the past before. Roczen has won the Anaheim opener a few times, but he's also had big crashes at the opener as well, so I think he's happy leaving with a 2nd. Tomac has never finished on the podium before at the opener until last weekend, so gotta imagine he's happy leaving with a 3rd. But yeah, just overall very chaotic Anaheim 1 in the 450 class. Definitely my biggest surprise, and I kind of paid attention to him throughout most of the main event because I saw him doing this charge pretty early on, was Cooper Webb. coming from being down in turn 1, practically getting the whole shot, to finishing up 5th in the main event. And I mean, I want to believe that Cooper is back, but I also do feel that that was more or less him being comfortable in the rain and those tricky conditions all night long. He was good, but not fantastic in practice, not near as mind-blowing as he was in the main event. So I put it down a little bit more to changing conditions. Definitely helped out Coop in that situation. But I mean, it's good to see that he has kind of turned over a new leaf, and maybe he's found more confidence in that KTM, that he didn't have in the Yamaha. Whether it was, too much power off the top from the Yamaha, or, weight could have been a factor. Just not necessarily that the bike was too heavy, but that the weight was in the wrong spot for something Cooper liked. I know that the KTM chassis is kind of known for being a little bit more of center weighted bike, and just overall a really good chassis as well. So, maybe he's just gelling with that bike the same way Barcia's jumped on the Yamaha and is gelling with that. Again, I hope that's the case, because if it is, it's only going to create more drama and parity in this series, which I want to see. I don't necessarily have a giveaway favorite that I want to run away and win this series. So if we can get more people in the mix, potentially winning races, or just consistently clicking off good finishes and being somewhat in the title fight, I think that's great for Supercross. But it's also something that I want to see, because I feel like it's really gonna kind of elevate this championship to a new level, and it's not just going to be Tomac winning 7 out of the 17 rounds or something like that, and everybody else just trying to figure out how to beat him each week. It's somebody new that can win every week and do something good, so I'm excited for that. Like I said, I was proven wrong. You guys can totally call me out and say I'm an idiot for saying that it was only going to be those 4 guys, because Barcia immediately proved me wrong. But I am happy to admit that I was wrong, and again, I'm happy to be proven wrong in this sense, because it's awesome. It's awesome to see Barcia win after 6 years. Last win 2013 Seattle. Before this, another muddy night in Seattle back then. But he had won the Phoenix Supercross that year, so he knows how to get it done. And lo and behold, we're going to Phoenix. So I think that there's lots of positives Barcia can take, and they often say that it's it just takes one, and then you kind of can go on a roll. You get that confidence back, you get your mojo back a little bit. Definitely is possible with Barcia. He seems to be a guy that when he is feeling comfortable, there's a lot working for him and not a lot working against him. So I'm glad to see him get a win, get back up there. I was kind of hoping Kenny would win, just because after going through the injury and everything, and he was able to win an outdoor national, so I guess he's kind of had his return. But I feel like this injury needs to be put behind him at some point, and I feel like getting back into the winner's circle in Supercross is what it's going to kind of take for Kenny to be like, okay, he's back. The old Ken Roczen that we know, that can get it done on any given night, he's there. I still think he's there, of course, but I think for his sake, he wants to know that he can still win these races, and I certainly believe that's going to happen anytime soon. It could happen this weekend in Phoenix. Roczen looked fantastic last year at Glendale, charging up, blitzing the whoops much better than Barcia or Tomac were. Tomac got a good early lead last year and kind of faded back into Barcia's clutches a little bit, but was able to hang on for the win, his 2nd in a row at Glendale. So, I mean, it's really tough to bet against Tomac this weekend in the 450 class, but as mentioned, you give Barcia some confidence now. Roczen has something to prove. If Anderson can figure out what's going on, he's definitely pretty good at a track like this too. Dry, slick, hard-packed stuff usually suits Anderson pretty well. He's from New Mexico, so he kind of grew up riding conditions similar to this. Marvin's never really been particularly great at Glendale. Fortunately, this week, I think he's going to be aided by I wouldn't call it small, but Glendale usually, because the lanes are so long, Glendale usually has long whoop sections, and this one is not massive, I would say. It's a good size. It's got, I think, 13, 14 whoops in it, which isn't small. So I can't call it small, but it's not massive. Like last year, for example, it was pretty much one entire rhythm lane was a whoop section with a double out. The year before that, it was literally one entire rhythm lane was a whoop section, and Marvin just kind of wasn't good at Glendale. He's usually pretty good in those slick conditions as well. Technical track this weekend should help him. I think he's still just maybe not got the fitness for 20 laps because he's had so much time off the bike this offseason. But I'm really looking to see Marvin and Jason both, if they have a turnaround week this weekend, then we can kind of like be like, okay, you know, breathe in, breathe out, deep breaths, everything's going to be okay with both of them. But if they both struggle and finish outside of the top 5 again this weekend, I would honestly be kind of concerned for their hopes championship-wise moving forward for sure, but really just to get anything going before the season's over, because these racers, they're so momentum-y that if they're not winning races and in a title fight year after year, they could kind of fall out of that zone. We saw, you know, Barcia as a clear example of that, just struggle year after year with bike settings and gosh, you name it, he seemed to have troubles with it, but now he's back in the winner's circle, has loads of confidence. I think he's going to carry that. But are we going to see issues for Anderson continue, issues for Marvin continue? I don't know. I think that there's a lot of questions to be answered. It's almost like Phoenix, or really any second round of the series, Houston was last year. It's kind of your true first round because there's so much hype and build up around Anaheim every year that you're kind of not reading into the results maybe as much as should be, you know, like you should kind of take it almost with a grain of salt. Not saying discredit Barcia's win by any means, but I think that this round is really going to kind of show us where we are in Supercross this year. Who's going to be the guy, who are going to be the guys. And I'm excited that I get to see it in person for this 450 class this weekend. All right. We hit the 12-minute mark, which means it's about halfway through the video. Time to switch over to the 250 class. And again, I feel like, I don't know if I could necessarily be classified as wrong in this sense, because I didn't say Colt Nichols couldn't win this year, but I did kind of sell it a little bit as it's going to be a McElrath AC season with Ferrandis maybe sneaking in and getting his first win here and there and taking this title down to the wire. But dude, I gotta give some serious props to Colt Nichols. He looked fantastic at Anaheim. Just got a good start, took the lead from McElrath right away, and then was just like perfect, honestly, like consistent, fast, steady. You know, it's starting to downpour a little bit more as the night goes on, and it seemed like he had no problems with just running the same pace the whole time. And that's good to see. I feel like that's the kind of improved Colt Nichols that we really needed to see this year, where he's figured out his crash demons from the past. He's kind of put those behind him, and he's found a comfort level running that pace where he can, you know, push it, he can relax, he can push it again, he can kind of meter his own pace and doesn't have to have like these freak out moments where he goes AWOL and crashes hard, which was always his problem before injuries. You know, he's had a couple femur breaks and I think torn ACL and broken arm and stuff like that. He's had a rough couple of years here, so fantastic to see him get a win. Like I said, I don't know if it proves me wrong necessarily, but I do feel like I didn't really have him pegged as like a race winner this year necessarily. Definitely podium threat, but here we are. He's your points leader going into round 2, and kind of like Barcia, he definitely has the potential to carry this momentum forward. There's a lot of talk about whether or not we can classify A1 as a mud race, and I feel like it kind of depends. Like, I do really feel like Barcia and Nichols, you know, their true pace is that, like, they're going to be good. Like, this isn't going to be just like a fluke deal for either of them, whereas Anderson and you know, Cooper Webb, for example, I'm still kind of looking this weekend as like, well, Anaheim was kind of weird. It was kind of wet. It wasn't a mudder, but it was wet. So will these guys still have the same pace this weekend, or, you know what I mean? I guess we'll have to see about those guys and see whether or not Colt and Barcia carry it into this weekend. One thing I will kind of touch on from my previous video is how I talked about how I didn't feel Cianciarulo was going to win the opener, and I guess I was right. But I thought if he could prove at the opener, like, look, the AC of the past where I'm going to have these finicky, you know, non-fast weekends and just suck some weekends and be great other weekends, I think that AC is kind of gone. He was clearly fast all day, fastest in qualifying. Believe he won his heat race as well, so he was, you know, great in that. And he really should have had a chance at winning that main event, but he decided to outbrake himself going into turn 1, got hucked, kicked off and went to the outside of the track, and when he rejoined, he was in like literally 17th or 18th, had to claw his way forward. Obviously the incident with Hampshire, running in with him and going down and ending up 5th. But I mean, watching him most of the race, although he was sketchy, I did get the sense that like fast AC is here. He's good, he's got the speed, he's got the pace, he's got the fitness. I left Anaheim more convinced that Adam Cianciarulo can win this title than I did entering it, I think. Which is weird, because he didn't even finish on the podium, and he had kind of a weird night, just like getting taken out by Hampshire and weird moments and cases and stuff like that. He was definitely not having a great race, but his speed's there, and I think that means a lot in this 250 class, that you're the fastest guy week in and week out, because then you kind of get guys to fear you a little bit. You clearly are carrying the most speed into each weekend. I feel like that's going to be what just AC kind of does, honestly. So, like I said, definitely kind of more answers from AC than you would expect from that ride. Maybe I'm reading into it too far, but I do feel a little bit more relaxed about AC's potential to win this title. If anything, I would say his biggest threat in my eyes is Dylan Ferrandis, who also looked great all day. I watched Ferrandis comparatively going through the whoops against everybody else, and he was absolutely crushing the whoops. Like, he was so good in the whoops, lap after lap. I was thoroughly impressed with Ferrandis. He just looked like he had it dialed, no problems at all. And that's saying a lot, because we know Marvin isn't great at whoops, and French riders usually, they're good at whoops, but sometimes they tend to lack the intensity of like blitzing whoops hard. And Ferrandis looked like he was the best guy all week. Like, just every time he hit the track, bam, going through the whoops like they weren't even there. Just massively good speed through the whoops every single time, and I think that's a positive sign for him. Maybe he wasn't the fastest qualifier, yeah, maybe he didn't win the main event, but he looked damn good. Like, he looks fast, consistent, and ready to take this title down. Now he's got to click off that first win like Nichols just did, build up that confidence. I mean, who knows, maybe Glendale is where it happens. I know Ferrandis is obviously a very good technical rider, being from France. That's usually their forte. They have really good timing skills. The whoops are, as we discussed with Marvin, not the hugest thing, but maybe that's a good thing, because he only has to worry about hitting that set of whoops good and fast, and the rest of the track he can be just pristine, perfectly smooth Dylan Ferrandis that we know. And I don't know, like, I almost do feel like Ferrandis is going to win this weekend. I was a little bit disappointed, but that's wrong. That's kind of the wrong word. I was just kind of like not impressed with McElrath. So if you want to call that disappointment, I guess that's the right word. But to get the whole shot and then to run second for as long as he did and lose it late in the race to Ferrandis, who no doubt was riding well. Like, I'm not taking it away from Ferrandis, but I just felt like that was Shane's second place to lose. And honestly, I almost thought it was Shane's race to lose. Like, he gets the whole shot. He's good at A1. He's from back east, so he clearly knows how to ride ruts in the mud and the rough and stuff. Like, his first race win was Muddy Creek, which I feel like is one of the more rutted up nationals that we get during the season. So I didn't think like the rain was really going to cause a problem, but he just didn't seem comfortable. Maybe he lacked some confidence in the bike by the time the main event came around and the rain started coming down a little bit more. So I guess I'm looking for a little bit more out of Shane this weekend. Kind of the same boat for like Webb and Anderson on their follow-up rides. I don't think Shane is not going to be a championship contender, but I think we'll get a little bit more answers about his actual overall speed this weekend on a track that is probably a good spot for him to maybe pick up a win. He was leading here last year until Plessinger caught and passed him. I think he has a great chance of winning, but I'm going to go with Ferrandis this weekend. I really was impressed with him. I think that, I don't know, I just feel good vibes for Anderson this weekend. And then 450 class, I didn't mention it, but I got to go Tomac this weekend. He's won 2 in a row at Phoenix. He seems to do really well on the start here. It's a long start. That Kawasaki's got some good power, and Eli's been significantly better on the new grate system for starts, so I don't feel like he's going to necessarily struggle this weekend with starts. And then, yeah, he's just good at Phoenix. I don't know what it is. It's, I guess, supposedly like his closest hometown race, although I guess now we're going to Denver, but it used to be his closest hometown race because he's from Colorado. I got Eli. And I have Dylan Ferrandis winning here this weekend in Phoenix. And again, as always, I could be dead wrong like I was about the guys winning in the 450 class, but that's who I got this weekend. Love to hear what you guys have as a pick, or what your thoughts are from Anaheim 1 following it up, what you're thinking about this weekend. In fact, if you guys want to get involved in the discussion for this series, I'm going to post a link to the SYS Fantasy Supercross kind of forum board that we're using. If you play PulpMX, it's free to join our league. Obviously, I don't really care. I'm not going to kick you out of the league for joining late or anything like that. So join our league on PulpMX Fantasy and play with us. That's going to be a lot of fun going through the season, racing against my teammates and the challengers from the community that will join us and try to compete with us on fantasy. But I'm going to link you guys to the forum board so you guys can join up on our forum. We chit chat about fantasy stuff there, and then obviously the fantasy post will be there as well. So yeah, check it out. That'll be fun, and looking forward to going to Phoenix this weekend. Hope I see any of you guys there, like I said, and I appreciate you guys watching another video here in Start Your Systems. My name is Kellen. I'll see you guys this weekend in Phoenix.